This is the Do-It-Yourself Guide to Business Buying, and today we're talking about the overview. Welcome, business buyers. Hey, thanks for joining us. The Do-It-Yourself Guide breaks down business buying step by step. So 20 steps are covered. There are 25 videos. New videos are added every week. Now you can skip, combine, or reorder the steps. All steps are included, but the steps taken to buy a business can vary a little bit, but I'm going to give you a really solid foundation on the steps taken to buy a business. Some steps take 20 minutes, others a little longer. The terms and concepts are not going to be fully explained here. This is just an overview or a preview video. The detailed explanations are in the individual videos. In this overview preview video, there's really two goals that we've got. Number one, to give you an overview of the entire business buying process, start to finish, the bird's eye view. And number two, just to preview or give you a sneak peek of the actual videos that are in the DIY guide. There are 20 steps covered in the DIY guide. It looks intimidating, but don't be intimidated. Some of these take very little time. Others are more milestones. I just wanted to give you a detailed breakdown. Let's take a look at them, starting with pre-planning. Pre-planning is getting organized before you start pursuing a target business. It makes sense. You want to line everything up before you start because mid-deal, you're just not going to have enough time to hunt around and find what you need. So I broke it into 4 groups: the information that you're going to need, relationships you want to have in place, tools that you're going to use, and a playbook that you're going to follow. And pre-planning can be done for all of them, and the video training does cover them all. That's pre-planning. Next is generating deal flow, how to source a target business to buy. We have a deal funnel in business buying. We source deals and feed them into the funnel. So when we talk about deal flow, we're really talking about feeding opportunities into the funnel. And I have to tell you, it is a numbers game. Most deals do get rejected, so we need quantity. We need lots of deals. And if we are consistent in feeding them into our deal funnel, and they're high quality, and we do it regularly, it's only a matter of time until your efforts pay off, and one of your deals makes it all the way through the funnel and closes. You've bought yourself a business. In this module, we're going to cover how to generate quality deal flow at scale to make deal flow work for you. After generate deal flow, we have sign the NDA. Just things to keep in mind when you sign the NDA. The non-disclosure agreement doesn't pose huge problems in business buying, but there are a couple of issues. For example, do you need to sign the NDA to get the financial statements from the seller? The answer is yes, you do. Does your lawyer need to review that NDA before you sign it? I would say prudently the answer is yes, although most individuals I work with, they don't seem to bother. That changes if you own a business and you're buying a competitor. Now it's a hard yes. You definitely want to get your lawyer to review that before you sign it. We'll talk about these issues and a few more in the video on signing an NDA. Next is screening deals. This is an important one. We want to avoid wasting time on deals that are just going nowhere. So we screen deals 3 ways. We do an LBO deal fit screen, where we ask the question, is this deal closable as a leveraged buyout or an LBO? We have a checklist to help sort that out. In this one, we're screening the deal. Number 2 is buyer-seller fit. We're asking the question, hey, will this seller accept my seller note? That's a really important question. So a good idea to go through this checklist as well. This time we're screening the seller. And finally, the buyer-business fit, where I'm asking the question, hey, could I drive business improvement if I own this business? Will I thrive owning this business? And we'll go through the last checklist. This time we're screening the business. So the first one we're screening the deal, the second one we're screening the seller, and the third one we're screening the business. And screening does continue anytime you receive new information. It never really stops. Next is the seller meeting. We need to build rapport in the seller meeting to pave the way to negotiate a seller note if that's going to be part of our structure. The seller meeting is important for lots of reasons, and it needs to be a priority. Now, if it's a broker deal, sometimes the broker is going to block access and won't let you speak to the seller. If that happens, that is a definite red flag. You really can't negotiate a seller note unless you have some face time with that seller. Because if we think about it, to negotiate a seller note, the seller has to know you, like you, and trust you. So building rapport is going to be critical. And that requires one-on-one time with the seller, and that's one of the main issues we address in this video. Next, we're going to request the financials. We need financial information to value the business and to make an offer. There's 2 major questions that really need to be answered for every deal if you think about it. Number 1, is this a good business? And number 2, can I get it at a fair price? To answer both of those questions, we do need financial information. So in the video, I'm going to provide you with a list of documents that you need to ask the seller to share with you to get the financials that you need. Now, you won't always get everything you need or want, and I'll address that issue in the video as well. Next, we have to analyze the financials. You want to analyze the financials to assess performance of the business and to calculate the EBITDA to help value the business. Now, of course, your accountant can review the financial statements of the target business, and lots of business buyers go that route. But we're also going to explain in the video how you can analyze the financials yourself, even if you're not a financial person, at least to get the EBITDA to allow you to do a preliminary valuation. This is a major topic. We have lots of great stuff in this video. Next is discovery. We want to fill in the missing pieces just to get a full assessment of the target business that we want to buy. Because you know what? The information the seller provides you, it's often incomplete. Documents are missing. And this is not the exception. This is really the rule when you're in the SMB space. And so discovery can close up those gaps and help you find the missing pieces. In the video, we'll provide discovery methods to help you get the full picture on the target business that you want to buy. After discovery, time to value the business. What is the market value of the target business you want to buy? Obviously, key information. There are three main ways of valuing an SMB business. There's the cost approach, the market approach, and the income approach. Really, they look at different time periods. Cost approach is only looking at one day, maybe today, whereas with the market approach, we look at past periods. And in the income approach, we're looking at future periods. If we're only looking at one day with the cost approach, we look at assets and liabilities. We take the fair market value of the assets, net out the liabilities, and that's how we get the value of the business. With the market approach, it's a little different. We're looking at past periods. We have income statements from those periods. We calculate the EBITDA and then value the business based upon a multiple of that EBITDA. With the income approach, we're looking at future periods. That means forecasted earnings. And with those forecasted earnings, we calculate the discounted cash flow, and we use that to value the business. Now, we'll cover all three, but which one is most commonly used in the SMB space? That's easy. That's the market approach. So we are going to cover the market approach to valuation in detail in this video. Next, we have to structure the offer, which means choosing the optimal mix of terms and conditions. Offers can be structured different ways. It really starts with the purchase price, but after that, how much of the purchase price is going to be closing payment? We have to make a decision. How much will be a seller note? What's the payment term going to be on that seller note? Will it carry interest? Maybe we want part of the purchase price to be paid post-closing based upon the performance of the business, in which case we'll structure an earnout. Loan covenants are part of the structure, so are the security provisions. So there's lots of things to consider. And we're going to walk you through a process to determine how you can best structure your deal. We'll cover that in this video. Once we've structured the offer, time to put out an offer letter. How do we put together an offer letter to start negotiations? That's what we cover in this video. We're going to go through the do's and don'ts of creating a good offer letter. We'll talk about when to make the offer letter, either an early soft offer or a later, more detailed offer. We use a very offer-centric approach in DIY business buying, so we have a lot to say about the offer letter. We're going to give you a whole offer letter strategy in this video. After the offer letter, it's time for negotiations. How do we close the gap between the buyer and the seller through negotiations? What gap? Well, let's be honest, sellers rarely accept our first offer. We're going to have a gap. And so we need a negotiation range and a strategy mapped out ahead of time. And we also have to react to any counter offers that we receive from that seller. And let's face it, impasse is common. And so we're going to learn strategies to break through impasse as well when it happens. Really, we need a whole negotiation plan for buying a target business, and that's what we address in this video. Next is getting the offer accepted. What are the next steps in the process after the seller accepts our offer? We're making progress. Well, when basic deal terms are agreed to, we've got ourselves an accepted offer, and that is an important milestone. It builds momentum, and it really justifies reaching out. Now we can reach out to lenders for a term sheet and to advisors to help us create the LOI, whether that's a lawyer, an accountant, or anybody else. After the offer is accepted, time to turn our attention to finding the money. So in the video, we're going to talk about the 6 sources of funds and the possibility of using a financial broker. What are the 6 ways to finance a deal? Well, number 1, there's equity. That could be your own funds, maybe friends and family. Maybe you've brought in outside investors. So we're going to talk about that. Maybe it's going to be asset financing, where you borrow against the assets of the business that you're going to buy, whether it's receivables, fixed assets, inventory, or property. All of them can work. We'll talk about that. Of course, cash flow financing might be a possibility, whether standalone or part of a bigger financing package. So we'll get into cash flow financing. In the US, SBA financing is super popular with SMBs, whether it's a financial institution or a non-financial one. So we're going to talk about how that works. Of course, seller note financing, we're going to talk more about that, the payment term, interest rates, guarantees, etc. And royalty/revenue financing is also becoming more popular, so I will touch on that as well. I'm going to cover them all in the DIY guide. Now, you can shop your deal to lenders yourself if you have connections, but you should also consider using a financial broker. A financial broker will shop your deal to their existing lender network. That can really speed things up when you're looking for money. But you do have to be careful because there are a lot of fringe players, unfortunately, who are active in that financial broker space. But if you take the time in pre-planning to find a legitimate financial broker, it can really pay off. Next is sending the LOI, the letter of intent. We're going to learn what goes into an LOI and how to create one in this video. Now, the LOI covers a large majority of the deal points. It is a major milestone that triggers, number one, the start of the due diligence investigation, and number two, the lawyer starting to draft the buy-sell agreement. And so we're going to show you how to put together a really tight LOI in this video. Next is the due diligence, how to create a due diligence package that minimizes your risk. That's what this video is all about. Due diligence has two main objectives, really. Number one, to verify the facts the seller has already disclosed to us. We'll use a due diligence questionnaire or a DDQ for that. We want written questions and written answers. Hey, we want the seller to go on the record. And number two, we want to gain more insight into the business. It's a little more informal, interviews with key people, etc. There's actually a lot more than this to due diligence. We have an entire due diligence framework that we're going to talk about in this video. Due diligence is done in three main categories. There are subcategories, but the three main ones are legal, commercial, and financial due diligence. We're going to cover all of the details on due diligence in the training video. Like I said, we have a complete due diligence framework that's included. After due diligence, it's time to finalize the financing. We're moving from a commitment letter to a loan agreement. We receive commitment from the lender, and the commitment letter is legally binding, but it's also subject to closing conditions. And I do get questions about that, so we're going to go through it in the video. We'll discuss commitment letters and the loan agreements that are required to close the deal. So we'll discuss that plus some other things in this video. Next is the buy-sell agreement. We're going to review the different forms the buy-sell agreement can take and how to choose the right one for your deal. Buy-sell agreements can really be structured in two main ways. We can purchase the shares of the business from the owner or seller, or we can purchase the assets of the business from the company. And so we're going to discuss the differences between share and asset purchase agreements in this video. I've actually got 12 key points that you might want to address with your legal counsel prior to drafting your agreement. That's one of the things we'll cover in this video. After buy-sell, we want to resolve the final issues. How do we avoid last-minute problems that can jeopardize closing our deal? Serious issues can surface at the 11th hour in many deals. It is fairly typical. Because what I've found is that emotions can really run high for the seller, and small things can derail a deal really right up to the last minute. That's especially true in these family businesses where legacy is a big concern. So I've identified 14 issues that you want to avoid during pre-closing that can lead to potential problems, because you want to ensure that your deal closes as planned after you've put all that work into it. Now, finally, closing the deal. We'll walk you through a mock closing to show you what closing day looks like. The mock closing includes all the steps involved on closing day. It's quite thorough. I'll also share my checklist on day one issues to address now that you're the brand new owner of the business. I'll also explain how the flow of funds works on the closing day, because I do get questions about that as well. So let's recap. Here's the 20 steps. We cover them all in detail in the DIY Guide to Business Buying. Our goal is to help you master the details without getting lost in those details. Now, it might seem like a lot, but it will soon become second nature. It is really nice to have a handy guide that you can consult along the way when you're buying a business. And that's exactly what the DIY Guide was designed to do. We want to help you buy your first business. That's the DIY Business Buying Program, and we'd love to have you join us. Let's get after it. This has been the Do-It-Yourself Guide to Business Buying. Today, we've been looking at the overview. We always want to learn and grow as we go. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.